Hello, everyone. Welcome to Not a Lonely Coffee Break. We are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan. We are a podcast about coffee and work, but make it queer.
I don't know about you. There's been so much going on, just like in my personal life, in the world. And I'm just feeling so drained.
Me too. Like when you're, that little squiggly line that's like a ball of yarn. It's just like, that's my brain.
Absolutely. So, and like I was like, I'm going on vacation soon, so it'll be a perfect opportunity for me to unwind, decompress a little bit.
That's what we all think.
And honestly, I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yeah.
It was just a lot. Like I was with my whole family. And so, that was an experience in itself.
Well, it's like you're not always with them. So when you get with them, you're just like, I got to do something all the time. What are we doing?
Based on, everything I was feeling. And then I also was hearing from like other people in my life that they also were kind of going through a rough season now. I don't know. Maybe there's just something in the air where we all collectively are just kind of going through.
I'm just going to blame social media, to be honest.
There's
so much going on.
I'm blaming the media.
The media, that would work.
Social, all of it.
Newspaper, whatever.
Because there's just a lot. There's so much. We can't escape it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's been kind of hard to unwind a little bit. But I thought other people were maybe feeling a little out of sorts, that we could devote an episode to us kind of talking about it and sharing some information about mental health.
Wow. Yes. Love this topic.
I know. Meaghan knows me enough to know that if there's an opportunity for me to talk about mental health, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're kind of mental health nerds.
We are. I went to this event recently. It was to support a domestic violence shelter.
Okay.
It was super fun. It was a lighthearted trivia night. There was great questions, great company. We had a really great turnout. It was a lot of fun. They wanted to sprinkle in some questions mixed in with the fun ones regarding domestic violence.
All right.
To help spread awareness. And there was a question that was asked about gaslighting. And so immediately when I heard the question, was taken back to our experiences.
A lot of times, like, you don't realize it's happening and you just think, man, I just suck. You're just like, geez Louise, I don't know what is going on, but I am just no good, apparently.
Part of the gaslighting is you're being told that you are not good enough. And the only person who is this person that is telling you you're not good enough.
Right.
And so you almost lose, I don't know, in the workplace, at least with my experience, it was almost like I lost confidence in the decisions that I was making.
Right.
Because I was constantly told that I was making the wrong ones.
Yeah. Yeah. With no sense of solution, right? It's all about, like, if you're going to give feedback, then let's create a solution together. But really, a lot of times in the workplace when you are being gaslit, it's just no, right? And no, the ideas that you're coming up with aren't good enough, or what you did was completely off track, or maybe this position isn't fit for you, and when you're being told that consistently, or when it's something that you're like, this is a place that I really wanted, like a position that I really wanted to be in, you really start to question your choices, that led you to this spot. And it really affects your day-to-day, because work is a large part of our lives. I can imagine for someone who might be in the queer community, who has different perspectives, who have different experiences, who want to bring those things to the table. And I know that a lot of times this is also brought on, from my perspective, like of race and ethnicity, when you bring those perceptions to the table, they're just completely shut down. Right. And it just whatever you had to say no longer mattered.
Even as we had the question asked at this fun trivia night, the two people that I was on the team with, that I didn't really know them, we were just put together. they were even quick to say, oh, yep, that's gaslighting. And they didn't share their story with it, but you could tell that they had a time that they had been gaslit by someone in their life.
It's probably really prevalent, right? Because if you have a leader that just has a very closed off point of view of how work should be performed or creatively given, then you're always going to be shut down.
In my experience, at least towards the end, there was a lot of kind of spinning the narrative a little bit into something that wasn't actually what happened, but I was so unwell in my mental health that I started to believe it and was like, is that actually what happened? Like, am I actually, like, it was believing this false narrative that was being spun.
I think that, you try not to bring your work at home, and you try to keep it away from your loved ones, because it's like, who wants to talk about work all the time? But it's amazing how ingrained it becomes in your day-to-day life.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild. And I could imagine how many people it affects, where you're just like, that negative thought just continues to cycle around in your head and you just can't get out of it.
I did find actually a lot of stuff, a lot of people who are talking about this, which is good. But surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly at all, a lot of the stuff I found was actually from organizations or individuals that are based not in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, I think that really reflects a little bit about our work culture. Strange.
It does. It does. So, one study that I found, they surveyed 3,000 people across many industries.
Okay.
They found that 87% of those employees agreed that a toxic workplace culture had a negative impact on their mental health. The same study also showed that 73% of employees agreed that toxicity contributed to their burnout.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Burnout is very prevalent. And so when I saw that, I was kind of like, could it be that there's some workplace toxicity happen? So when we talk about gaslighting, when we talk about gaslighting, it said 58% of people have experienced gaslighting at work. It did not say in the survey whether or not they find gaslighting for them. So it could also be something like how many people don't realize that they're experiencing gaslighting. Sometimes it takes someone who's in the healing process before they're finally able to acknowledge, oh, that was gaslighting that I experienced.
And it's not just I noticed and now I'm going to sleep it off. It's like now I have to retrain myself to know that these things are not true. It's part of that healing process.
There was some data about LGBTQ plus professionals. Nearly half of our queer professionals globally said they had experienced depression, with higher rates among trans and non-binary individuals. And then it was even higher bisexual or multisexual professionals.
Okay.
It was more like 59%. So the most pressing insight for these HR leaders and managers is the discomfort that many LGBTQ plus professionals feel about being their authentic selves at work.
Wowzers.
Which that just struck a chord with me, because when we had our talk on the week before last, they even talked about how they shared with their therapist that they felt like they were going crazy because they felt like they were living two separate lives.
Right.
But it said with regional differences, so where people were located, it said higher levels of openness were reported in the UK and Europe compared to North America and Africa.
Well, I'm not surprised. Well, thank you for sharing.
I think it's so important to acknowledge that people are going to have mental health. People are going to be dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
And that's going to carry out into our workplaces. So creating work environments that can foster positivity and promotes opportunities for self-care change someone for the better.
They really can.
Especially if they're dealing with a lot of stuff at home. They don't want to come to work and also deal with a bunch of stuff at work, which is why I'm grateful I was able to get someone to join us today.
What?
To talk about some ways that we can support individuals who are navigating mental health, who are maybe in the workplace with us or just in our general community. And I met Amy. I've probably known Amy now for 6 years. I know I met her when I started doing more trainings and sort of just engaging more in the community side of things, because she's very involved in the community and training and things like that. I don't even know if Amy knows this. When things got really rough for me a few years ago, Amy was actually one of the only community relationships that sort of remained and continued to thrive. Because, during that time, I was believing a lot of the narrative that was being sprinkled out, or even that I thought was being sprinkled out.
Lost in the sauce. You're just like,
right.
You just start believing, it's in there.
Yes. Amy never treated me any differently.
Wow. Yeah.
Never sort of made me feel like I wasn't capable, and just continued to be like such a positive source of encouragement. So without further ado, join us in welcoming Amy Sanders from North Texas Behavioral Health Authority. Welcome, Amy. We are so excited to have you join us. You do such amazing work in the community. I was just telling them how important you are to me and how supportive you've been to me in my own mental health journey. So, I would love for you to let our listeners know who you are.
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here with you and have this conversation. I think it's very important. My name is Amy Sanders. I am the program manager for Mental Health First Aid and the Zero Suicide Program at the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority. So we are the local mental health authority for Dallas County, as well as Ellis, Navarro, Hunt, and Rockwall counties. So we offer lots of mental health, behavioral health, such as substance use, services, resources, just a plethora of things that people don't realize, down to housing, food, you name it. We can help with a lot of different things in our counties.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that when I first started researching into mental health, a lot of people don't realize how much the county offers when it comes to mental health. I mean, like you said, not just the mental health, but like regular health and like with food assistance, housing assistance. There's so much out there that isn't being utilized. That's what we're trying to do, is just really bring some awareness to that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Amy, I'm a big fan of Mental Health First Aid, but can you let our listeners know more about what Mental Health First Aid is?
Sure. So Mental Health First Aid is a public education program. It's designed a lot like CPR and first aid. So we learn how to recognize when someone is in a mental health crisis, or just experiencing the onset of a mental health challenge. We know what to look for, and then how to connect them with appropriate professional help if that's needed. Sometimes people just need us to recognize that they have something going on, and just ask them if they're okay. It can be literally that simple. Sometimes we just need to kind of talk things out, but there's other times that people need a little bit more help. So learning the skills and the resources that are available to help somebody if they're experiencing a mental health challenge is very important. And I think it's something that we all need.
Yeah. It's like underrated. You never want to have to use it, but it's good to have it when it's there, like, yeah.
No, one of the things that I really like about the course that I think is just so important when we talk about mental health is it really talks about the importance of giving someone reassurance and what that could look like or sound like. And I think that's something that, like, we all think sometimes that we're giving reassurance. When you take a course like this and you're kind of talking about it, you're like, oh, I am guilty of saying that thing. And now that I'm hearing it and hearing about all of these things, like, that is not helpful. And so it really makes you think about what could be more reassuring.
And one of the things too, when you think about the reassurance thing, sometimes we can be really good at recognizing and noticing something's going on with somebody. And so, we get the courage up to go ask somebody, hey, I've noticed, things just don't seem right. You just seem a little off. And if we're lucky and they trust us enough to tell us what's going on, we could go straight to trying to fix it. And we leave out that really important piece of just giving them hope and just giving them some facts. Just like we do whenever someone breaks their arm, it's real easy for us to say, oh my gosh, you're going to probably have to do some rehab, and go through some therapy, whatever, that you should be able to get back to doing whatever it is that you're doing. But we don't do that when it comes to mental health. We don't let people know that there's hope, that there's help, and that recovery is possible, because we're scared we're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing.
Right, absolutely. Thinking about our LGBTQ plus community and a lot of the mental health concerns that we know occur within this community, within this population, what would make mental health first aid an important training in our workplaces, in general, but specifically to help our coworkers that might be part of the queer community?
Well, there's a lot of stress, a lot of different stressors, from different, whether it's coming from family, whether it's coming from the work environment, whatever, there's just a lot of stressors. And we know that stress and trauma are number one risk factors for mental health challenges or mental health crisis. So I think more of, if we can be more aware of some of the stressors or some of the things that are causing kind of the behaviors that we see from these stressors, and recognizing that, some of the things that we do and we say actually impact someone's mental health. And we can see that playing out, whether it's someone not showing up for work on time when they always have, or not showing up for work at all, and they always have. Those little things are important. And when we can notice them early on and, intervene, talk to the person, figure out, what's going on, connect them with help if they need it. It gives us also the opportunity to change things that are happening in the workplace. Just understanding, I think, just the empathy around the fact of what's already there as far as predisposing someone to mental health challenges, and then just knowing how to just respond and just be personal and just be a friend. And that can help more than anything in the world. And I think this training helps us understand a little bit more behind mental health.
Right.
So then we can just apply it and sprinkle it out through, whatever community it is that we're talking to or working with or friends with. It shouldn't matter.
For any listeners who are curious and are like, this training sounds wonderful, we'll make sure to tag the websites. And you can also reach out to us via email so that we can connect you with Amy for additional questions about the training, because y'all, it is fantastic. When I took it, I think it was really eye-opening, because it's really simple. You don't have to be like this fancy, you don't have to have fancy letters after your name. It's just really, how can I have a meaningful conversation with someone who is maybe going through a rough patch?
Yeah. And that's what it is. A lot of times it's just those bumps in the road, and we're all going to go through them. So 1 in 5 of us every year is going to go through. Next year is going to be a different 1 in 5. So how do we help each other just, swerve and go back in and just get back on track? Because we're all going to be there. At some point, we're all going to be there. And the healthier we are, mentally, physically, just being able, just having those protective factors in place, which is also something that I love about this course, is really talking about the protective factors, because we may have a lot of risk factors that predisposes us to mental health challenges, but just understanding it and just knowing that there's protective factors that you can really build up and build your community and build, the people in your circle that are your protectors and the people who are going to be there for you. Knowing how to do that is going to help protect you ongoing.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, just hearing you say, because I did take it, because I do manage an office, I think about constantly, okay, where's that balance, right? Where I'm like, am I being too personal or am I being helpful? It's something that you have to practice and really be intentional about. And I think that that's what mental health first aid does. It really puts you in a different perspective of just like, not me having, issues or, dealing with stressors, but how can I help someone who is dealing with them, and not just being like, well, this happened to me one time, you know? So not just doing that, because I know that that was part of it. Part of the training is like, yes, we've been through different things, but you never want to be like, well, this happened to my
I love
mom.
how, Megan, that you said, that you use the word intentional, because I think, that's another thing that we have to be more, is just be intentional about how we talk to people, the words we say, the language that we use. Because if we're using that stigmatizing language, people are not going to trust us, and they're not going to come to us and talk to us when they're having these thoughts and feelings that, are uncomfortable or scary. And so we better build that in our organizations, where, and here's how I look at mental health first aid, like at work. A lot of times, a lot of people, when I talk to organizations about implementing mental health first aid, they say, well, we want resources and we want to do stuff with self-care. Fabulous. That's fabulous. But what you're doing when you implement mental health first aid within the organization, you're creating all these resources. You are creating resources within the organization, because now you have people with knowledge, with skills, with lots of resources, because we give you lots of resources after you take the class.
Yeah.
And, but the most important resource are the people who are trained to have these conversations and to recognize when something's a little off, and say, hey, is anything you want to talk about? I've noticed XYZ. Being able to start that conversation, have the courage to have that conversation, is real important.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. Yes, I love that. And I really like that you said a lot of times people reach out to you and they want self-care and they want resources, because I have heard the same thing. I get a lot of, we want you to talk about self-care, or we want you to talk about work-life balance. Well, it's hard to just talk about that, because a person who is dealing with a mental health concern, they can't just say, I need to do this to practice self-care. Sometimes they need that support system around them.
Yeah, assistance for sure.
And for a lot of people, their coworkers, their managers, their leaders could be the only source of connection that they have right now. And so being able to equip our workplaces with tools like mental health first aid can be so powerful.
Yeah, because a lot of stress comes from work.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I won't give you a percentage, but
yeah.
Yes, it's like, say it louder for the people in the back. It is a huge source of stress. So you are starting at North Texas Behavioral Health Authority, our Zero Suicide program.
Yeah. So Zero Suicide is literally what it says, right? Zero suicide really focuses on the fact that we should not have suicides in behavioral health and healthcare systems. We should, because people are connected to us, we should be able to recognize and be able to intervene and stop suicide from happening, with the people who are getting services, from us or from the healthcare system in general. And so one part of that is, what do we work on? Zero suicide is, what do we work on as an organization, especially behavioral health organization, to be able to make sure that we're doing assessments, that we are providing education in the community, that we're doing the things that we need to do to make sure that we, are doing everything possible to have zero suicides. Now, there's a kind of different piece of that, kind of a break off piece of that, and that is the community education piece and the loss team. So the loss team is for suicide survivors. That team, there's different ways that you implement this this kind of program, but basically the teams go out. They're volunteers, and they will go out on the scene of a suicide or reported suicide, and provide resources. And those resources can be anything from how to clean up to what are your next steps, as far as talking to the funeral home, getting locating family, whatever it may be. It's literally anything and everything to support the people in that time of need. And so we are building that loss team. We're going to start small. We're going to start in Mesquite. Aren't you proud?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Shout out.
no.
Shout out Mesquite.
So the Mesquite Police and Shirley Weddle, she is just an incredible, just person when it comes to suicide intervention, prevention, postvention. She lost her son to suicide. And so she is a huge advocate. And she has got all sorts of connections. And so Mesquite Police, she's already talked to them about this. So we are going to start the implementation process there. And we're working on building that, getting them some resources together. And of course, it also involves like support groups, grief support, there's just so many different things. I know there's a lot of people in the community that have experienced suicide loss that want to be involved, that want to help.
Absolutely.
And be a part of this. And so we're going to open it up to volunteers and people who want to help. And we know that there are going to be people who want to help, on the backside. Some people are like, I can't, it's too close to me to go out.
Right.
Yeah. On a one-on-one. But I want to help with care packages. I want to deliver things. I want to do that. And that's fantastic. And then, we'll have people who also want to be there and talk to people.
That is so amazing. Like, it just makes me really feel like it's just this one thing to bring a community together on so many different levels, right? Because like you said, the intervention plus the postvention, like there's so many different types of families that are just going through different things that they can all connect with each other because they, I feel like when, what I've learned is that when these families are going through these difficulties or the grief, a lot of people tend to just kind of come back to themselves and they don't want to, because it's like trying to protect themselves, right, from more grief. But that's the last thing we need to do is isolate, and so there's that sense of community and just bringing all these different, different types of people and different types of resources to the pot is just, that's awesome. That is so cool.
We know that mental health touches everyone.
Yes.
And suicide also touches everyone in some way. And being part of the queer community and us talking about the queer community, we also know that within our community, we have a huge need for us to have resources like this because we do have high rates of individuals who are dying by suicide.
Right.
And having thoughts of suicide. And so I am just so grateful that resources like North Texas Behavioral Health Authority exist and that they are listening to the community and saying we have got to do more to make sure that we are addressing these needs. Before we let Amy go, I feel like we need to end on a little bit of a more happy vibe. So Amy, I know that you have listened to our show, so you do know that we not only talk about workplace stuff, but we also on occasion like to talk about coffee. So what is your sort of go-to coffee beverage?
I'm a coffee drinker. I drink coffee every single day with my collagen in the morning. But I'm a local coffee shop girl, and we have like an incredible little coffee shop here in town. I live in Canton, so I'm out in the country. But it's called Pony Espresso. So the drink that I get there is called a Pony Love. And so it is, I don't even know what all's in it, but it's got like some, I think it's blackberry. Yeah, it's blackberry. It's got chocolate and blackberry.
Oh my gosh.
Get it iced or I'll get it hot. But it's got blackberry cold foam on top of it. It's amazing.
I'm like looking at my little coffee mug now and I'm like, this is boring. Well, thank you again, Amy, for taking some time to chat with us and share about the amazing things that you guys are doing. We will make sure we tag North Texas Behavioral Health Authority. So that way, if you are wanting to know more about their services or just how to get in touch with them, you can have all that information. And then if you are interested in learning more about how you or your organization can take mental health first aid, you can also reach out to us and we will be more than happy to connect you with Amy. Amy,
Thank you,
are
Amy.
Wonderful.
Yes, you are.
We are so grateful that you work for our mental health authority.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm glad too. I'm glad. Thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate you so much.
Amy.
And thank you for all you do.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Bye.
So our Facebook, was someone. And so I have been going back and forth with Facebook. So it is only our Facebook page that is impacted, which I am grateful for. So I've been going back and forth with Facebook literally for the past 2 weeks, trying to resolve that situation and hopefully get us unhacked if that's a possibility. So I tell you this to tell you that we will not be posting anything on our Facebook page because we do not have access to it.
But Maddie, where else are we on?
You can still find us on social media. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on YouTube. That's where we have our show. You can also find us on Patreon. Patreon is where we also have our exclusive content, which we are going to be getting some stuff up very soon. If you are a member of our Coffee Break crew, for $5 a month, you can access our exclusive content, including additional episode footage, maybe exclusive interviews with individuals. You also, and Meaghan is really excited, you also will have access to our merch. We do have some small little merch items that we are going to start trickling out.
And then hopefully if we're ever on the road, which you can figure it out if we're on Instagram, and we'll be like, hey, we're going to be over here, hopefully soon somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll have this stuff there.
Yeah.
And you can help support the podcast.
Absolutely. So all of that will be, you'll start seeing that trickle out on our Patreon.
Bottoms up.
All right.
Yummy.
What a great last sip of coffee that was. That is our cue to wrap up. Hopefully you got some great information and encouragement to help you through your potentially rough patch.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for Not a Lonely Coffee Break. We are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan.
And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Cheers, queers.